Hi everybody, welcome to our show. I guess it's a show of just one. But basically this video is about how to heighten your intuition. There's hummingbirds all over the place, so they're going crazy right now. But basically this show is about how to heighten your intuition and how to increase it for your own sense if you're doing mediumship for others or helping others in any way or whatever. But this is just basically for your own self of how to do it yourself. Okay? So, and this is also my way of doing it. There's a million different ways and you have to find the right way for you, so just to let you know that. Oh, there's this chipmunk coming up to see us. I wonder if it's going to come see. So basically the first thing that I always say to everybody is that you have to trust what you get. A lot of times when we do something and we're reading people, what you're doing is you're reading energy. You're not reading their thoughts or their mind, just like as I can't read your mind. The chipmunk is right below. It's trying to get on camera, but basically, there's no mind reading or mind control or anything like that. It has nothing to do with, at least what I do, it has nothing to do with that. What it does is, what it has to do with is that it picks up, I pick up energy. So that's probably the best way to describe it. And anything that I get, the most important thing when especially starting out, is that I learned that I had to trust what I got. One of my initial times of when I started to really do mediumship or do intuitive psychic work is that somebody, I was talking to somebody and I said, oh, you know, you're going to go to the Mediterranean. And this person said, no, I'm not. I haven't been on vacation in 10 years, that's impossible, and they basically blew it off. And so right there at that moment I could have immediately been like, I'm nuts, you know, like I didn't know what I was talking about and so forth, but I didn't. I just trusted that wherever that information came from, and then it came out of my mouth, that information needed to be into that person's ears. Okay? So after a couple months, like 6 months or something like that, that person ended up, I talked to that person again, and she said that, oh, she happened to mention that she just went to Italy. And I told her, reminded her that, oh, I told you that you were going to go to the Mediterranean. And she kind of just blew it off. You know, she wasn't really sure on what I was talking about, or maybe she just didn't remember. But it was one of those things that it was more validation for me of recognizing that what I'm hearing and what is being given to me does need to be expressed. And for so many years I held it within because I just thought that there was just voices in my head, or I just thought, I just chalked it up to a lot of different stuff. And when I realized, when I just trusted that I am okay being wrong, I'm okay being a fool, I'm okay saying the wrong thing, and that this might just be crazy, you know. When I really accepted that, that's when all the information started coming through. So I challenge you to do that with your own self. And maybe you don't have to do it in such a vocal way of how I did it with somebody else. You could just do it with your own self, of finding, and there's a whole bunch of games that you can do, and I'll show you that, of what you can do to strengthen your intuition, but not feel like a complete, you know, fool. But it does humble you, and that's actually a good thing, because what happens is it humbles the ego. So it's not the you part that you're thinking of. You is not the ego. The self is so much bigger than a body, so much bigger than anything you could possibly imagine. Okay, so that's number one. Number one is that you trust what you get. You try not to question it. The first thing that you do is, when you get information, the information comes before the mind can attach to it. So usually when you're testing yourself to increase your, what's up with all the feathers? There's always feathers, and oh, it's probably from my dog, fur flying around. But the information that you get, trust it immediately, so it's the information that you first get before your mind could latch on to it. So one of the games is you guess the time or something like that. You're not going to be thinking about the time, you know, on the clock or something like that. You're just going to immediately, what's the first number that pops up? Not, oh, it feels like 3 o'clock, or oh, this or that, you know, not literally. Okay, so some of the games that you can do is, like I said, is the clock game, I call it. And what I do in my house is I cover all my clocks because I don't want to be run by time. So I have one clock that's, you know, the hand kind of clock. I don't know what you call it. I'm really bad at reading, you know, those hands and so forth. So I have no idea, so I don't have to cover it because I won't sit there long enough to try to figure out what it is. But all the other clocks are covered. I don't know if you just saw that hummingbird come in, but so all the clocks are covered. And what I do is throughout the day I just test myself. All of a sudden I'll just think of something and I'll about to look at the clock, and I say to myself before I look at the covered clock, I'll say, what time do you think it is, Vanessa? Just what are the numbers that pop up in your head? And then I flip up the thing, and then usually I'm close. Sometimes I'm completely off. But sometimes I get, the other thing is, let's say you guess 5:32, okay? And maybe it's 2:45. Well, you, I don't know if you keep on getting these hummingbirds in here, but you'll get, at least you got a certain number. You see what I'm saying? So it's not, so you might be way off of thinking it's 2:45 and it's really 5:32, but you got the 2 in there, and then maybe, you know, the 4 is close to the 5. It's stuff like that. So you just keep on practicing and practicing and practicing. The other thing is that's very, very important is you're never wrong, but you're also never right. Okay? So because when you label it right or wrong, that's egoic, and you'll just, it's just a mess. Like you'll just, if you're reliant on that, then it won't work, basically, because it's not coming from that place. Okay? Another game that I usually play, that I tell children to do, or, you know, I just made this up, is basically, I do the, hi Luna, I do the bank car game, I call it. So whenever my husband or somebody, you know, goes into the bank, and if I'm in the car, if I'm just sitting there, you know, waiting for somebody, I'll sit there, and what I'll do is I'll just kind of do a quick sweep of how many cars are in the parking lot. Especially if you do a small parking lot, it's a lot easier. That's why I call it the bank game, because usually that's a small parking lot area. So I sit there and I wait for the next person till people come out, and then when they come out, before they start heading towards their car, I match them with what car they're going to go to. So I just, and it's just practice. And so the other good part is it gives you validation of exactly if you're correct or not, so if you're tuning in or not. If you don't get it, that's okay. It doesn't mean that you're not tuning in. I mean, who knows? Maybe they have a similar car that you thought that they were going to, and it's not, but it doesn't show up that way at that moment. Okay? So that's another little game. And just anything like that. You could just match people. People with their cars is a more of an easier one because they're attached to their car. So it's like an item, you know, that they have more of an energy attachment to. And the same thing when you do it, don't be paying too much attention to, oh, well, that car looks like them, or it has, it says their name, you know what I'm saying? It's just more of like, what's the first thought? Okay, that's really important because that's how I get my information. It's bypassing the mind's story. So it's the first thought. You immediately match it with this, with this, with this. Okay, let's see, what else? Oh, the other thing is that if you want to start really reading energy and so forth, one of the things you could practice is don't practice on yourself. I have the hardest time personally practicing on myself. I can't. It's just, it's really, really hard. And when I do readings sometimes for my husband, is that it was very fascinating. I had his relatives come in from his side of the family, and they came in and they started saying something about me. And I had I didn't know that they were talking about me, because sometimes I'll say that my name in like third person. So, and I'm not consciously aware when I'm reading. Okay, so I'm not like literally listening to what I'm saying. and they came in for me and they started saying stuff, and it was interesting of how resistant I was. I questioned it all, and I couldn't really understand it, and it came in jumbled, and I just thought that was very interesting. So you might definitely practice on somebody else. The other thing is that you want to, when you do practice on somebody else, make sure that you could get their validation for what you're seeing. Okay? So you're not going to, just talk to somebody about their family and they have no understanding, or they don't know names, they don't know certain stuff about their family. That's okay. But you need validation. You need to know that what you're saying, what you're feeling coming through, and that they can prove if that's correct or not for you or for them. So make sure that you work on somebody else first and just practice back and forth. The best people to practice on, honestly, is the people you barely know. That's because you don't second guess the information you're receiving. That's probably the biggest, the hardest roadblock in what I do, is that I really, really love people who I've really barely any information about. Just mainly because I won't second guess anything that's coming through, and even though it's very vulnerable of a feeling, it's a very vulnerable feeling, but at the same sense I trust that whatever information I'm getting, is coming through, not from me. Okay? And that's probably the majority of the stuff. And the thing that I could probably close with is just let go of the need to be right. Okay, because this isn't about being right or wrong, and you don't know. You never know. Even if you tell someone something and it doesn't match, that doesn't mean that it's incorrect. And also, if it does match, it's not necessarily, right on. So all you're doing is reading energy, and it's kind of like you're reading a book. Like, everyone's an energy pattern. Everyone has their own book. Everyone has their own story. And so what you're doing is you're tapping into that. The other thing is to be careful of, when you do read people, you want to be a very clear mind, okay? So you're not taking anything, even energetically, from them. Sometimes when people have a lot of physical issues, or especially with people who have passed, who've had physical issues, a lot of times I feel those issues in my body, and that's okay, but just make sure that you let it go, that you're not holding on to anything, that you're just a conduit, just as the person that you're reading is a conduit, the same thing. So that's probably it, and I hope you got some information and could increase your intuition, because I think the world keeps on getting to be a better and better place when we evolve. Okay, thanks, and have a great day. Bye-bye.